This game completely sent me down a very dark hole of researching, trying to figure out everything. Like, I need to know everything about this manuscript because it's just fascinating to me. Hello everybody, welcome back to Board Game Buzz today. My name is Carly and today I'm going to be sharing my first thoughts on a brand new upcoming title from Salt and Pepper Games. This game is called the Voynich Puzzle. I really hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. I looked through so many videos. I think everybody pronounces it slightly differently, but I think it is Voynich, the Voynich Manuscript, Voynich Puzzle. So I'm sorry if I'm totally mispronouncing that. Like I mentioned before, this is a brand new title from Salt and Pepper Games, and there's actually a crowdfunding campaign currently live for this game over on GameFound right now. So if you are interested, I will have all the information linked in the description below for this video. Having said that, this is not a Kickstarter preview where I'm really going to kind of go into the how to play of this game. I'm just going to kind of give a really general overview of how this game operates and then jump into what my thoughts are on it. If you are new to the channel or if you've never seen one of my videos before, hi. Welcome to Board Game Buzz. I'm so happy to have you here. If you have yet to subscribe to the channel or follow me on all my other accounts, it'd be so great if you could do that. It really helps support me and kind of everything that we're doing over here. But without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into this new title. So this game, the Voynich Puzzle, is actually based on a real-life manuscript that was discovered in this old library. When people discovered it, they quickly found some interesting things about it. It was covered in like very mysterious drawings, in weird languages that no one's been able to decipher, weird pictures of plants and food that doesn't exist. So this manuscript really has baffled people for quite some time. Nobody really kind of understands or knows what this was meant for, what it was used for. So this game is kind of taking this manuscript and this story and making it so you are actually playing as somebody who is trying to decipher this manuscript, decipher this code or this puzzle. This is a heavier weight Euro game that is full of chaining actions. You may be activating actions on this side of the board, which will then chain and trigger actions over here on this side of the board. But a really big part of the game and what is actually allowing you to trigger these actions has to do with these books. Every single player will get their own little book here. It literally flips open. You can flip through the pages of this book, which I think is just such a fun aspect to this game. And on a player's turn, you are going to turn to a new page, and then it's these pages, the top half of the cards, that will show the actions that you can then trigger on this main board here. The main board is divided up into 6 different zones, basically 6 different actions that you can take. You have this botany area where you are literally going to be growing plants to help trigger actions or potentially get points. There's this astrology section of the board where you will be rotating this center wheel and activating and triggering certain abilities that have been previously claimed by other players. There's the writing sections of the board where you will be adding your writings. This potions area of the board is kind of like a conversion chart. It allows you to basically place some of your tokens in order to exchange them for something else. In this water or baths area, this is where you will be placing your raindrop tokens, and slowly they will flow down the river, kind of gradually giving you more and more points until they eventually hit the bottom. So as you're going through and activating the areas that we just talked about, the 5 areas that we talked about on the board, what those are going to be triggering and doing for you is a lot of chaining. A lot of chaining is going to be happening, but something else that's going to be happening is you will actually be slowly getting more knowledge in the different areas of the manuscript, right? Whether that's the botany section, the astrology section, writing, potions, or bath. So every single player has their own little tokens associated with those areas of the board, and they will be slowly, gradually moving up the track system, getting more and more points. Now this is where this center area of the board comes in play. This is the 6th and final section of the main board. This is a really, really big part. This is the puzzle section of the board, and this is where you are going to be sharing the information that you have been collecting from the other sections of the board. So again, coming back to these little tokens that everybody has, once they reach a certain icon on the outside of the track, you will then be able to collect a little puzzle piece. Now at the end of your turn, for every single puzzle piece you have, you can select, it has to be the same color, but you can select a puzzle piece and add it to this main board here. Where you place your puzzles are super important because you have these little magnifying glasses that are on this board that will slowly be moving out. And why those magnifying glasses are important is because those are what you can then spend to upgrade your book. So for example, everybody starts off at the lowest level, all of their pages are very undone, but throughout the game you actually will be able to, or starts on this side, sorry. So throughout the game, if you are able to pay with the knowledge that you've accumulated on the board, you'll be able to flip the card. Then you could pay again to flip it again, which then you can flip it to its final and most powerful side. When you do flip and upgrade these cards, these actually will allow you to get more endgame points based on where your little trackers are for that particular zone. So this is a bath card that I have right now. So if it was fully upgraded, at the end of the game, based on, I guess this one is actually giving me points on my writing, but based on how far my writing little token is up on the path, I will get a lot of extra bonus points at the end of the game for that. Again, this is kind of a heavier Euro game, and because this is not a Kickstarter preview, I'm not really going to go into too much more detail in regards to how it plays, but hopefully that kind of gives you a general idea of what you're going to be doing. Everything is chaining together in this game, and the point that it almost like made my brain kind of explode. I was like, okay, wait, I have to do this, which will then trigger this, which will then let me trigger this. So if you know me and my gaming style, you already know that this game was right up my alley. So with that kind of lead in, let's jump into my thoughts on this game. I already mentioned this at the beginning of the video, but this theme completely drew me in. I had no idea that this manuscript existed in the world. I had no idea. So when I got this game and I read through the rulebook, and on the very first page, it kind of explains the story and like the kind of the lore behind this manuscript, and I was just completely drawn in. So I immediately went online, kind of started researching it, and I just got so excited to play this game because I love that theme. And honestly, Salt and Pepper Games has been just knocking it out of the park lately. Every single game I've played by them, I have genuinely loved, and I think they are just coming out with fantastic games. They're honestly probably one of my top publishers now, that when I hear a game's coming out from them, I'm immediately like, I want to sit down and play it right now. I'm all in. I don't even need to know the theme because they have just been producing really fantastic stuff. So already I kind of had like good expectations, right? It was a theme I liked. It was a Euro game, and it was from Salt and Pepper Games. That's all I knew, and I was like, hey, let's sit down, let's play it, because I'm already excited. Then once we sat down and started playing, and we pulled out these books, right, and we assembled our little books, which is honestly one of the coolest components I've seen in a while. Something about it, I mean, it's just a flip book, but it's really awesome the way that it works with your actions. It has that, I mean, it's nothing like this game, but it kind of has that scythe action where, you know, you have all these actions and you have to go to a new one every single time. I liked that implementation of this is you have to turn to a new page, which then gives you new abilities that you can then activate on the main board. So I was automatically hooked by that. And then we were playing and we were going through, taking our actions, and the chaining in this game is so good. And if you know me, I love games that have like kind of like those combo-tastic chaining movements. And this game is so full of that. So for example, on my turn, I'm going to turn to my botany section, which allows me to activate this section of the board. I can use one of my little leaves to grow up this plant, which will then place me here, which then allows me to place my raindrop over here in the bass, which then pushes everybody else's raindrop down. And so everybody is collecting points. Or maybe I use my potions page to be able to activate the potions. So I can actually place my sun right here, which then allows me to exchange one of my water droplets on this board for a leaf, which will inevitably be worth more points once it gets pushed down to the pool. Or maybe I'm able to place one of my suns over on the writing area so I can activate this entire row that people have already built out for me, which then allows you to trigger certain actions on various other areas of the board. The marriage of all of those combo-tastic turns, it works super well. So inherently I loved that, but then there's an extra layer to the puzzle of this game, and that is you are very limited on the amount of tokens that you have. Very quickly, very early on into the game, you're going to take a look down and be like, okay, wait, all of my tokens are on the board. So next time you have to place a token that you don't have, you actually have to pull it from an area on the board that you've already previously placed. So especially if you're playing at a higher player count, I really like the way that spots are taken for a little bit of the game, and then they'll be open again. And so it's kind of this big puzzle of taking and placing, and it's so good. Another thing that works really well though, and I think you primarily find this on the botany board and then the baths board, but no two tokens can share a spot at the same time. So for example, if I am growing my plant, if I get a grow action and I can take one of my leaves and place it higher up on the plant here, well, I actually have the opportunity to skip all of the other plants or all of the other leaves that people have placed, and I can then go to the highest. So it almost has, it doesn't have tracks, but it almost kind of feels that way sometimes, because sometimes you're placing leaves at the bottom knowing, okay, this isn't going to give me a good ability now, but at a future turn, and especially if a couple other people place, and then I go to grow my plant, well, then I can skip all of them and I get to climb to the highest. It really kind of feels like you are growing the plants over here. And then with the baths, whenever you activate this action, you add a raindrop to the rivers that are like feeding into the main pool in the middle of the board here. Every single time you place a new raindrop, it actually pushes everybody down, which means that everybody gets to score those new points again. And then over here at the puzzle, as you are slowly growing out the puzzle, you're putting kind of making more and more combinations. Well, other people are equally going to be benefiting from the knowledge that you're sharing, right? It's very thematic. You're all sharing knowledge, so you're all kind of reaping the benefits of that. So the more you're building out on the puzzle, you're able to get more and more points, because when you choose to upgrade your book, you are upgrading it based on, you have to meet the requirements, which basically means your certain magnifying glass has to be on a certain color combination or a certain amount of puzzle pieces that are on the board. But whenever you pull that magnifying glass based on where it was on this grid, you will inherently get victory points. Less victory points in the middle, more on the edges, because it's harder to get there. So for example, if this magnifying glass was all the way here and I was able to upgrade my book and it was on the correct color and combination of puzzle pieces, I can remove it, upgrade my book, and then then I would actually be able to collect 6 victory points just inherently from doing that, from upgrading the book and removing my little magnifying glass from this board. Everything just blended together in such a beautiful way. Don't get me wrong, it hurt my brain. After playing, so I've only played this game twice now. I still feel like at the end of the second one, or I guess the second one, I felt a lot more comfortable with it. But when I was playing the first game, I was like, I have no idea. I mean, it is very basic what you're doing. You just flip to a new page and then you do the actions. But there's just a lot of chaining. And I think that's where it definitely feels like a heavier game, just because there's so much chaining that can take place. Essentially every single action that you do on this main board is going to trigger something else somewhere else on the board in a different way. It's thinkier than I was originally expecting it being, but I loved it. I loved the thinkiness because everything made sense. And it even ties back to the theme, in my opinion, because, you're going out and you're kind of researching or finding different parts about this manuscript to then share what you're finding with everybody else, which then everybody can kind of benefit from that. I don't know if I mentioned the artwork yet or not on this, but the artwork is absolutely amazing. George Redondo is the one who did the artwork for it. I really hope I pronounced your name correctly, but I love it. I think it totally fits the theme. Everything about it just feels like an old, alchemized manuscript almost, and it really feels that way when you're playing it. I loved how you were upgrading your cards, slowly getting more powerful as the game goes on, and every time you play, you are actually playing with different cards. This isn't a set book that you have to have this one throughout the entire game. There are different cards that you can pull, and so all of your games are going to feel slightly different. So in my opinion, it has that level of replayability. And because the board is obviously so large and so vast, it does have a really high level of variability, because sometimes you can really focus in on different sections of this board. And especially with the different actions that you are allowed to take on your book, I think this game is incredibly replayable. Every single time I've played, or the couple times I've played, I really have focused in on different parts of the board, and I've been able to really gain points in different ways, kind of pushing and pulling different buttons. Honestly, this game just made me love salt and pepper games even more. And honestly, as of like, this is my favorite game from salt and pepper games that I've played. I love this game. The designer behind this game is Danny Garcia, who also did Arborea, Windmill Valley. I'm not gonna lie, he might be one of my new favorite kind of like up and coming designers. And it's funny because I can actually kind of see touches of those games in this one, especially like for whatever reason, this botany area, if you like climbing and kind of like going up that path, those paths, it kind of feels almost like Arborea. And I love Arborea. It's on my favorite top 100 games of all time. And so when I saw that he was actually the designer behind this game, I was super, super interested already because of that as well. As far as my negatives on the game, I honestly don't have any red flags or any like glaringly obvious things about this game. Maybe that would change the more that I play it. The only thing that I will say is that because of all the chaining that can happen, it just can be a really thinky game. There's turns can kind of take long between players because people are thinking, okay, if I do this, and it will trigger this, and then this. Or could I do this strategy, which will then let me do this and this? What the rulebook actually says is while other people are taking their turn, you actually should be flipping through your book, trying to set up your next move so that when it is your turn, you are good and ready to go. But because it does have that level of chaining, it can take a little bit longer, especially at that higher player counts. Also, when you do play this game with two, you do have to have kind of like a dummy player involved. I didn't find it to be that big of a deal, but I just think inherently this game will play better at higher player counts. But then at higher player counts, I think the game is going to take slightly longer. Other than that, I love the puzzle. I love the artwork. I love the level of chaining that does happen. There actually is a solo mode to this game, which I haven't yet dived into. I would really love to actually play this game solo because I think I feel like I need longer than other people to work through my turn. And so when I do play with big groups, I'm just like taking turns just so I don't slow anybody else down. So I would actually enjoy this game as a solo game so I can just kind of sit, really plan through my turns, really think through everything. So I don't know, maybe I'll do a follow-up video chatting about how the solo mode works because I'm really excited to dive into this game solo. Having said all of that though, they really truly knocked this game out of the park. In my opinion, I don't think they could have done this any better. I'm surprised how much, I thought I would like it, again, based on the artwork, the theme, the designer, everything about it. I was like, yes, like I really think I'm gonna like it. But then we sat down and played it and it just blew me away. I just want to keep playing this game. I want to keep diving into the different puzzles. I want to keep focusing on different areas and different zones of the board, kind of seeing which ways just kind of push and pull those buttons. And this game allows you to do that. If you like Euro games, kind of that medium to heavy zone, I would absolutely, again, I can't recommend it enough. I thought this was fantastic, a fantastic game. I am so excited for Salt and Pepper Games and kind of what they are producing. I am excited for every single game that they are announcing, producing, releasing to the public. And I am so excited for people to get their hands on this game. I really think that this game I think it's just going to do fantastic for them. I really do. Thanks so much for hanging out with me a little bit today as I kind of share my thoughts on this new title from Salt and Pepper Games. Again, I will have links to the crowdfunding campaign in the description below for this video, so head over there, kind of check out kind of more finalized versions of this game. I don't know if I mentioned this before, but this is very much a prototype, so everything is subject to change in this game, so just kind of be aware of that. So again, I want to reference you over to the crowdfunding campaign to kind of check out the more finalized stuff that they have planned for it. If you enjoyed this video and you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, it means so much if you could do that. It really helps support me in everything that we're doing over here. But until next time, I hope you have a great rest of your day and we'll see you later. Just seeing it on the table makes you want to play it again. I'm not joking. I might drag Jordan into another game of it because it's so good. I'm so excited about this game.